Action!
Hi everyone and welcome.
Action!
What episode are we?
Shut Not drunk.
I will answer that after the break. Okay, we'll cut down for a moment.
Were you quoting dummy?
Those jokes never count. I should probably start this camera over here. Okay.
Right? It's for getting a signal. Hi everybody, welcome to episode 24 of Knights of the Round Table. Today we are discussing the 2007 film The Last Mimzy. In this film, two siblings develop special talents after they find mysterious toys on a beach during a holiday. And this draws them into a mission of the utmost importance. And we're going to start with a general impression of the film. Do you want to go first?
Sure, that was an excellent summary.
Oh, thank you. Haha! IMDb.
Points awarded.
Overall, I really enjoy this film. It's one that I like to go back to and watch again. And I feel like I would be happy if my kids watched it over and over and over again, because if they're anything like me, they will watch it over and over and over again. My husband is hanging his head forward. I hate the parents because I feel like they are limiting their children, but we can go further into that later because they bug me.
Okay.
I feel like the kids are very intelligent even before they find the toys, and I like that about it. I like it when they show kids as intelligent as they should be.
I really didn't know what to feel about this movie. I'm not the type of guy who usually watches, like kids movies or even young adult movies. So I was watching the whole thing and I was kind of like, okay, but you know what? It grew on me. There was a lot of things I did like about it, and I had surprisingly few criticisms about it. Although I might have been giving it a little bit more leeway because it was a kids movie. But we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, I liked it. It's not something I would have paid to have seen at the cinema. There were some aspects that were actually really very creepy, and that I half expected it to turn into a horror flick any minute because some of it was really very, very creepy. That said, the child actors were incredible. I thought they did a fantastic job. And although it was a story with a point and a very deliberate sort of moral, it never got preachy, which I appreciate very, very much because many other filmmakers have failed in that regard. So yeah, it was an alright film. Glad I watched it, but probably won't be adding it to my DVD collection, if that makes any sense. So, specifics now. You already said you didn't like the parents.
Oh, well, yeah. As a father, the father was excellent, especially at the beginning when his son Noah was like, life sucks, school sucks, I suck. And the dad was just like, yeah, life sucks sometimes. Yeah, school sucks sometimes, but you do not suck.
Yeah.
And I was like, aw, yay. But then when the mother was going off about the rabbit, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is not that much, like you shouldn't be that. There hasn't even been any crazy stuff yet. Like,
that rabbit was creepy as all hell.
only she heard it.
That's what was creepy about it. It was so creepy. Like she's listening to this rabbit purr in her ear, basically, and saying things like, Mimzy told me Dad's calling, and then the phone rings. If I was that mom, I'd be pretty freaked out too.
She didn't hear that.
But there
She did.
There was a lot of
Dad's coming.
instances.
Yeah, when Dad's coming, I know.
There was a lot of instances in this movie where the little girl, because of the bunny or not, was just plain old creepy. I mean, at some points, she was just like, I already know that. The bunny told me. And like, you're sitting there being like, when is this going to turn into Chucky?
Or Children of the Corn or something.
But
See,
there
I
was
don't watch
that.
those movies,
Okay.
so I never got that.
Yeah, no, that bunny was creepy.
How did you feel about the teachers?
I
The teacher?
I liked the teacher. I
Yes.
thought he had great control over his class. I liked that he was sitting on his desk at the beginning. It made him feel more personable to the kids.
Yes,
Anyway.
Yeah, as a character, he was a very good teacher.
Yeah. And I felt like he handled the whole situation pretty well too. Even to the, why are we taking them here? Why are we letting them go into the house? Like, he reacted completely sanely
Yeah.
to everything.
I have to say too, his fiance
Was funny.
His fiance who is every new age sort of trope you can possibly imagine. If she wasn't right, I would have found her as annoying as all hell. But it turns out she was right.
I actually wanted a little bit more from her because Naomi Schwartz is one of those actresses that plays a lot of very specific roles. And whenever you see her, you're like, oh, it's her. And she never really gets the chance to really shine, at least in the pictures that I've seen her in. So when I saw her there, I was like, okay, you know what? This is a kid's movie. Maybe, this is a character that's going to do something. And not so much.
She was more like the push.
Yeah. She's sort of the angel on the shoulder going, you need to do this.
Yeah.
Listen to your dreams, you fool. You missed out on the lotto because you wouldn't listen to your dreams. I like the interaction between the two kids. It felt very much like siblings, particularly the chopped up cow reference for the hamburgers that they were eating.
Oh my god!
This struck a chord with me because I did the exact same thing to my sister, who is now a vegetarian. And she would sit at the table and talk about how awful it was that people were eating food, and then she'd cut into a steak and I would go, and then she eventually, would push the food away and go, I'm not eating anymore. She tried it on me too, and I was just like, yummy.
Delicious
Delicious cow. So those two, that interaction right at the beginning of the film made me laugh, specifically because of it's so very true to life.
And it was so realistically done. Like, sometimes the kids in movies, they look like they're acting.
Yeah.
This was so like, oh yeah, that's real.
Yeah. And the kids, Chris O'Neill played Noah, and Rhiannon, I'm going to mispronounce this, Rid, a wonderful Welsh name, played Emma, the two kids, and they were both really good. I have to say, Emma was incredible.
For such a young
actress, I really bought her in that role. Pretty impressive.
I also hated the FBI. It felt so unrealistic.
That was one of my major bad points about the movie.
Especially at the end. Right, yes, the highly technical toy was just poof.
Yeah, you know what? We're
I
sorry, we're just gonna leave now.
Yeah, well, we have no idea what's going on. We're really sorry. Bye. I'm like, yeah, that would never
The worst
happen.
part was their entrance too. Their entrance was just as bad as their exit. They burst into the house and it was the most unrealistic FBI entrance ever. It was just awful and awkward, and as good as the kids' acting was, the FBI guys.
Which is sad because I have a soft spot in my heart for Michael Clark.
I like him so
love
much.
him
I
so
loved him in The Finder, especially.
Oh,
It's a TV show that got canceled. He was
okay.
very good.
I loved him as Kingpin.
Yes.
And everybody was cursing about that at the time, and I was like, I don't care. He made an awesome Kingpin.
Wasn't he in Underworld too? As well? Not
He was
Underworld
in
2.
The Green
Underworld.
Mile.
He was. I know he was in The Green Mile. Mile.
Mile.
I'm just gonna drink.
It was very frustrating to me to see him
In not such a great
being awesome.
Not doing
Yeah.
anything actory. He was just there, basically.
Yeah, no, the ending, I'm sorry, we don't understand what's going on, we're just gonna leave now. I'm like, yeah, no, there's no way. That was the only part of the film where I'm like, what? And there's a lot of unbelievable stuff that happens in this film. That was the worst.
Yeah.
I will maintain that rabbit was creepy as all get out, but I really liked the connection of Alice through the looking glass.
My animals talk to me, by the way, so...
Your animals are creepy. putting that out there.
I didn't have many friends.
Jeffrey the hippopotamus.
That was an imaginary friend, thank you very much.
Best
Yeah,
friend.
speaking of Alice Through the Looking Glass, I actually felt that was kind of a non sequitur for the movie. I mean, they were going with this really like technology theme, and then it felt like out of nowhere, Alice Through the Looking Glass got brought in, and maybe I missed something, but I was just like,
It made perfect sense to me because that the rocks formed the bridge which Emma was able to look through, and her Mimzy was the last one. And they had sent it back in time to another Mimzy back in time to the
Many.
yes, but specifically to the Alice who informed the character for Alice in the Looking Glass. But the idea was that she didn't get it done. She did not know what to do, and so
She didn't have an engineer.
she didn't have an engineer.
But she also wasn't as smart as these kids
Yeah, no,
were.
these kids were very clever. So it made sense to me in that regard, and I liked how it connected. It's still creepy though.
Also, Mimzy was part of Alice in Wonderland's Jabberwocky poem,
Yes, that's right.
and it's kind of referencing the short story that the movie was based
if I
on.
remembered that, it might have helped a little, I think.
Because the short story that this was based on was Mimzy were the Borogroves. And I read that, and there's like one paragraph about like this long that talks about Alice in Wonderland in abstract. It's the girl talking to Charles, and no mention of Alice, no mention of anything really, but it's in the short story.
Okay, that's good.
Noted. Yeah, I was sent the short story by your husband, but didn't read it. Because, you know, I was busy and stuff.
We read it last night.
Okay. I don't feel so bad.
We sent it to you on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now the question of, this Mimzy was the last Mimzy, right? So that obviously means that there was plenty of other Mimzys.
Or at least several of them.
Yeah. One thing that I was kind of bothered by the whole movie was it just that, like you said, the other people didn't have an engineer to help them, or was it just like that she was the smartest and most likely to pick it up? Because at some points in the movie I was like, this is a little bit elitist.
I found it was kind of twofold. It was sent back in time several different times. So there was like the Tibetan monks that got it. That's why there was that whole
Mandala thing.
yeah, the mandala thing. So that's why it showed up throughout history, various different times. The Mimzys were trying to teach them in time to get whatever it was that they needed, the genetic material, to be sent back. So they had to teach them, get the material, get sent back, and there wasn't enough time because their minds weren't evolved enough at that point. And even with these two, they had to teach them quite a bit. But can you imagine, like, 1,000 years ago? Like, they weren't as mathematically evolved as we are now.
Also on the question,
I am going to
Disagree?
disagree because pyramids, but
Yeah, but they didn't send them to Egypt.
no, as far as we
as
know.
far as we know. But there's also the question of the genetic material.
Yeah.
Now, I don't
That's
think
the
they
second
just
part.
needed genetic material, but
They needed pure genetic material. That's
From
why there
somebody
was
who
the
was
talking about the palms of her hands and how they weren't very lined. That's what the girlfriend of the teacher was saying, that the purest hand she'd ever seen and that sort of thing. So it's like she was special genetically as well.
the
as
way they
intelligent.
ended it also sounded like there had to be like an emotional factor to it.
Yeah.
Because they mentioned, they got, her tears off of the bunny. And just the way, like, it brought back, the emotions, the sense of caring to all of humanity. It felt like, it wasn't just the genetic material they needed, but they needed a certain amount of caring.
Well, see, that's
involved.
the nature versus nurture thing,
Yeah.
right? Where the idea that what nurture around you is affecting your DNA. So the more and more that people stop caring about one another, et cetera, the more it becomes coded in your DNA to be. So if sociopathic, selfish asshole or something like that, you know, right? So they needed genetic material from somebody who hasn't yet been genetically coded to be a complete sociopath in order to save humanity or something like that.
So they also had to give it to a little girl too, who would actually care about the bunny. So Alice was probably the closest that they had gotten, but Alice wasn't smart enough
Yeah,
to get the bunny back
Yeah.
before it disintegrated. I'm guessing it means the bunny didn't disintegrate, but the stuff inside it did.
Yeah.
No, the bunny was essentially a robot, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Nanotechnology
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, so it brings up interesting questions about the nature versus nurture debate. And depending on where you sit on that argument, I think, is whether or not you will roll your eyes at the whole explanation behind the Mimzy and the quest, etc.
How did you feel about the whole, in my notes I called it spiderweb voodoo. Because at that point in my notes, I wasn't sure where they were going with this whole spider web bridge thing.
Yes.
And when they first introduced it, especially once they got to the science fair part, I was like, oh my god, they're going to build this epic outer space bridge out of, you know, whatever, and, you know, somebody's going to go back in time, you know, whatever. And
They do in the story.
They do in the story.
yeah, but I found the ending of the movie was a little bit disappointing because it was not the epicness that I was really expecting. I mean, from the way that the kids were talking, they saw the whole thing, but we the viewers were looking at it from the adult's point of view, so I didn't really see the epic bridge action that I was expecting.
Yeah, no, me either. Although it was Noah's singing that built the bridge, essentially. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
As far as I recall, it was Noah's singing that built the bridge. So he was the one who arranged the molecules, particles, whatever it was, the energy.
Spiderweb voodoo.
Spiderweb voodoo, so that there could be a bridge. And that was because of the way things naturally respond to sound vibrations. The science is actually quite interesting because I'm sure there's a base for sound vibrations and behaviors that I have read somewhere.
It was never something I was very interested in before, so I haven't had
Yeah, no,
anything about it.
it's not prehistoric
But it
anthropology or
sounds
archaeology.
interesting.
So yeah, I haven't really read up on it all that much.
Yeah.
Any feelings about the palmistry?
Creepy.
I felt the mother was very amusing to watch in that scene because she just, the expression on her face was, this is
Such hooey.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
but I let a bunch of new age crazies into my house and they're teaching my kids. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
But I love the cinematography of that scene because as it got more and more intense, the music not only built up, but the viewing, the frame, thank you, got closer and closer to the faces. So like you felt like there was more intense pressure as the scene progressed, which I thought was interesting, and that was pointed out by my husband, but I'm sure he wanted it said.
Teamwork, very important.
Well, we discussed this whole thing before we came here, so
Together.
I'm trying to mention everything he said.
Awesome. All
You
right.
are not a meat puppet.
As a
No.
wacky side note, my cat Ravage thought this was an awesome movie and he watched almost the whole thing with me, and just having it playing in the background was jazzing him up like crazy, and I was like, what is it about this?
Maybe it's the sound waves.
Danny
Rabbit! Does he like other Danny Elfman soundtracks?
I don't think I've ever played a Danny Elfman soundtrack since I've got him, so maybe.
Experiment time.
Give that a shot.
Rewatch Batman, the original series.
Any Tim Burton.
Any Tim Burton, Spider-Man, the original two movies.
I'd be interested to know.
We expect
Pavlovian
results
trigger
next
for his crazy.
Does anybody have any major beefs other than the reaction of the FBI right at the end? Any major beefs with this movie?
I mean, it was a kids movie, so I mean, everything the entire flow of the movie was a little bit convenient. The fact that they were able to super easily break out of FBI custody and drive a truck down to who knows where and summon their math teacher via a dream. I mean, okay, so the FBI breaking out of their custody is not all that hard, but summoning the math teacher, I mean, really, like, that was pretty convenient. But yeah, I mean, it's a kids movie, so I'm not gonna subject it to alien type deconstruction.
Well, any sort of movie is kind of a matter of convenience and.
Well, any plot, really. Nothing would happen if the convenient things didn't converge at the right time.
Yeah, but
So life.
but there's good flowing plot, and then there's like, wow, that was convenient. You know, like.
Okay, so you had trouble suspending your disbelief then?
Well, I mean, not so much trouble because, you know, once again, it was a kids movie. If it wasn't, I would have been like, no, but it wasn't so bad.
No, okay. Final thoughts? You liked it.
I liked it.
That's it?
Well, one thing that was kind of interesting was at a certain point, like, the parents could not see the tech for what it was. You know, like in the beginning,
Yeah.
Was it Noah?
Yeah.
He passes, his mom the like green glowy whatever thing, and to her it looks like,
A slate.
a slate or
Electronic paperweight.
an electronic paperweight, whatever. But then later on, when they're using the other toys a little bit more flagrantly, then the adults can see that there's weird shit going on. So I was wondering at what point did the, anti-adult illusion just break down and
Yeah, something I hadn't thought of before.
I think it was started to become obvious after the science fair presentation. Science fair presentation. Yeah. For me, it was a pretty good kids film. It wasn't preachy. The child actors were pretty good. There were some really corny moments, like the dreams and stuff, but I can't really, because it is a kids movie, I can't say, oh, please. It's not something I would usually watch, and I will still hold that bunny, it's creepy. But I think it's because I watched too many scary movies where,
Probably.
yeah, where the stuffed toys turn out to be monster killers, or they encourage children to become killers. So I found it all a bit odd, and I understood the parents' reactions, and sometimes overreactions for that reason. But yeah, it's something I wouldn't mind my kids watching. So I suppose if I was to give it out of 5, I'd give it 3, I think, because it wasn't bad. But it's not something that I would add to my collection.
Even though it's already in my collection, because we went to the theater and watched it and loved it, I still would give it a 3 because the adults, other than the teacher and his girlfriend, pissed me off so much.
Well, actually, kind of weren't they supposed to then? Didn't they do their job?
Well, yeah, because in kids' movies and stuff, the adults are stupid and the kids are supposed to be the heroes. I don't know, a little bit more. They had the science teacher there who was awesome, which makes it kind of the parents' reaction more annoying because there was an adult who was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess. To me.
Actually, I really didn't have that much of a problem with the parents' reactions. I mean, the dad was sort of a, workaholic a little bit in the beginning, but he did have that one really good scene, like you're saying, telling his kid that, you don't suck, life does suck sometimes, but you don't. And he did, take a sabbatical when he found out that his family stuff was having problems. So, I mean, I'm down with the dad. The mother was fairly attentive, and she did have a couple of freak out moments. But then again, when you see your kid doing things like having their hands dematerializing, I can understand how the instinct might be to get that freaking crazy shit away from her. So
She hadn't even seen that yet.
Also, child levitating.
yeah,
Mimzy taught me this too. And all I'm thinking is, I am your daughter. I'm like, oh my god!
I'm fairly okay with with the adult reactions in this movie, with the exception of the stupid FBI guys. I have to say, I'd give this movie probably a 3-2. If it wasn't a kids movie, it would be definitely getting a 2. But, you know, allowable leeway for, you know, aimed at kiddie type audiences.
Yeah.
I also like that it's scientific, mostly, and time travel and kid related.
Yes.
So it's like a good segue. You would
Yes.
go watch this. It's about space and
Yeah.
science and stuff. Kids, you can watch it. Yay! Yes.
Okay. Who wants to pick the next movie? You look so happy. I have to.
I love doing this. The Forbidden Kingdom, 2008.
Oh gosh, okay. The Forbidden Kingdom it is. That's the next movie we will be watching. If you'd like to follow in the conversation, like and subscribe and leave a note in the comments down below. Also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Bye.
And cut.